Ah, yes, Mr. and Mrs. Jeffries, please have a seat, please. Now, I've read the email that you sent me, Mr. Jeffries. Let me see if I have the gist of it. Um, Shortly after you married your lovely wife, you started having horrible nightmares in which a demon would brutally torture you. Now, is that correct? Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. Yes, you did mention that in the email. The demon apparently has the face and body of your lovely wife. I see. And you tried getting help on your own. That didn't work. So then you confessed to your wife what was happening, and of course, she became very concerned. Yes, yes. And so the two of you together have gone to couples therapy. I see. Mr. Jeffries, I'll be honest with you. I think that was a mistake. I think you would have been better off going on your own because, after all, with the exception of these recurring nightmares in which a demon shows up dressed in revealing black leather clothing and brutally tortures you, this really has nothing to do with your wife. Well, that's not my initial observation. Well, I'll explain in a little while. But if I have this right, you and your wife went to couples therapy, three separate, I'm sorry, two. Yes, that's just the remote air freshener. I'm afraid I can't do anything about it. I hope it doesn't bother you. But you and your wife went to two different psychologists and finally a psychiatrist. None of them could help with the nightmares, mostly because all three of them got it wrong. And that's what I suspect occurred. Well, Mr. Jeffries, here's the thing. You went to three female professionals. Now, the women in this field are absolutely, from the ones I've met, they're absolutely excellent. But Mr. Jeffries, the problem with going to a female psychiatrist or psychologist and explaining to them that you have these types of nightmares, what each and every single one of them will say is that you have a guilty conscience. That has to be it. You've done something, most likely cheated on your wife, and you have a guilty conscience, and it's manifesting as this demon that looks like your wife, sounds like your wife, and enjoys torturing you. And according to you, you've basically married a saint. I mean, your wife treats you extremely well. she's made your life significantly better before you met her. And, you know, she does everything that a man could ask for from a wife, whether that's in the kitchen, the bedroom, in terms of stimulating conversation, in terms of advice. And apparently you treat your wife extremely well. I mean, the two of you should be a very happily married couple, and I guess you are, except for these nightmares that you're having, Mr. Jeffries. And, of course, all of the women therapists that the two of you went to gave you a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, you must have cheated on your wife. In real life, you're feeling horribly guilty because she's a wonderful woman. And this manifestation of this demon that looks like her is your guilt. Confess what you've done, and you'll feel better. And then after that, we can schedule some more intense couples therapy to help the two of you deal with this situation. Now, is that correct? Yes. Here's the thing, Mr. Jeffries. This really isn't a marriage counseling problem. What you independently should have done was gone to a male therapist, someone who knows how men think, behave, and react. Now, I'm sorry, but one of the worst things you can do as a man by yourself is go to a female therapist because, well, quite frankly, women think differently than men. A female therapist is not going to be able to empathize with what a man is going through because she's never gone through what you are going through. So even as a professional, there's a limit as to how far a female therapist can help a man. And quite frankly, the same is true the other way around. But you never hear of a woman going to a male therapist. I mean, never. So, you should have come to me or another male therapist on your own. But we're beyond that point. Now, Mrs. Jeffries, apparently going to 3 therapists, all of whom said your husband must have cheated on you or must be cheating, it caused you to become quite upset, didn't it? Mm-hmm. 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 Well, Mrs. Jeffries, I wish you hadn't have done that. But perhaps hiring a private investigator to look into your husband's possible affairs was, well, besides being extreme, I think it did put your mind at ease, didn't it? Mm-hmm. Yes. That's what I suspected. The private investigator found no evidence at all that your husband is cheating or that your husband did cheat. No evidence at all, and your husband denies cheating, denies being inappropriate with another woman. Yes, that is what I suspected. Now, I think we can definitely save this marriage because based on everything I've heard, having eliminated all possibilities, I'll be honest. Well, ask you this, Mr. Jeffries. Do you currently have a job? Are you employed? Oh, you are. Where do you work? Mm-hmm. 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 Now that name sounds familiar. Oh, I see, Mrs. Jeffries. That's the used car dealership that your grandfather owns. I see. Mr. Jeffries, why do you work at your wife's grandfather's used car dealership? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, I see. I understand. You got laid off from your job because of COVID, and you've been having a very difficult, horribly difficult time finding work, even though rates of infection have slowed down. Hmm? Well, yes, I know that the president said that COVID is over. Yes, our current president has said a lot of things. Yeah, maybe he needs a nap. COVID certainly is not over. I mean, I'm sure you noticed that my receptionist was wearing a mask when she buzzed you in. Yes, it's not over. Only an idiot would say it's over. So, Mr. Jeffries, long story short, you couldn't find work anywhere. And your wife's grandfather had an opening. He said, "Come work for me, make a paycheck, take care of my granddaughter, make sure she has food on the table, gas in her car," which, you know, I'm willing to bet, Mrs. Jeffries, that your grandfather sold you that Buick. Yes, yes, well, yes. Well, it's a lovely Buick, yes. Yes, a very nice looking SUV. Now, Mr. Jeffries, like I said, I believe I know what's wrong. You feel guilty, but not for cheating. No, no, no. You feel guilty because you don't think you're worthy of your wife. I mean, looking at you, the two of you, um, Mrs. Jeffries, um, no offense, you're not a 10 out of 10, but you are pretty close to it. And Mr. Jeffries, you're not exactly the most handsome man on the face of this planet. Like, you will never be on the cover of GQ magazine. Let's be honest about that. And Mr. Jeffries, you graduated college with an associate's degree. Your wife has a bachelor's degree and actually works in her field. You don't. Your wife comes from a very loving, caring home, and unfortunately, you don't, Mr. Jeffries. That is very unfortunate. Your wife works, you don't. Except the only job you were able to get was at the used car dealership owned by her grandfather. Now, Mr. Jeffries, It doesn't matter what her grandfather thinks of you. What matters is what you think of you. And what you think of you is that you're not worthy of your wife. That's right. On a subconscious level, you don't think you deserve a woman as good as your wife. And that is what's causing your nightmares. Because you don't think that you're worthy of your wife. One way to offset that is for you to be tortured and brutalized every night by a demon who looks like your wife. Mr. Jeffries, you need to accept the fact that you deserve to be happy. All of us do. You deserve to be happy. You deserve a good partner. You deserve someone who will make your life better. You deserve someone who will love you and care for you. And you have that, and you deserve it. Everyone does. You need to accept the fact that you are worthy of your wife. Once you do that, I believe these nightmares will stop. As far as your job, well, go and do the absolute best you can to sell those cars, and you will earn her grandfather's respect back. That's what you need to do. Now, our session is over. Please make a follow-up appointment with my secretary for 1 week from now. I believe the nightmares will stop. Yes. Have a good day.